Welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday, the 19th, and we are waiting for our next presentation, public presentation, which is a RAFTA update with Kurt Ravenschlag, who's the CEO of RAFTA. He's on final approach, so we'll see him in a few minutes. In the meantime, we're going to try to get some other work done because we've got such a busy day. Do we want to talk about upcoming regular meeting items, board open discussion? John, I'll leave it to you.
Okay, great. First, I want us to start talking about dates for a 2025 board retreat, actually.
I thought you were talking about another date.
We're thinking with, sometimes as we have new commissioners come on, we push out till March, but we're thinking it would behoove us to try and get a date in February this year, just with all that's going on. Right now, we are looking at February 19th and 20th, and wanted to throw that out.
I have no idea what I'm doing in February.
Well, how about a retreat on the 19th and 20th? That'd be...
Is that NACO? NACO's March. Just so
What
I'm
days of the
wondering
week?
when.
I believe that is a Tuesday and Wednesday. Let me double check that.
It's a Wednesday and Thursday.
Oh, it's a Wednesday and Thursday. Any time, really, that week. It's not a regular meeting week, and so we're looking.
Though, 'cause that'll be
President's Day is Monday, 17th.
CCI.
Yeah,
So
President's
we could
Day's
do
Monday,
18th
so,
and
so we
19th.
dodged that.
Thursday,
19th.
I might have Northwest COG, because it's,
There's a CCAT hybrid all-member meeting on the 19th. Somebody may want to go to that. Then there's a CC4CA meeting on the 21st, but that's online at this point, so
no,
I
I have
think
no
we could do
COG
it
meeting in
that week.
February, so.
Target the 18th and 19th and just get some
Wait,
feedback from
Yeah.
you.
Wait, almost there.
When's February?
It seems like a long time from now, but it's going to go like that.
Scary.
No, don't say that. That means the whole rest of my life is going to go like that.
So what's
Well, a
happening?
little more than that. Okay, well, while you're talking about that, now, was there any discussion publicly about going to DC?
It is an after meeting that night, or maybe
For
not.
NACO?
Yeah, so actually, and this will be one we'll need to have some one-on-one discussions. I did not get to those, Greg, but our lobbyists have recommended both our DC strategies for our grants on the RAISE grant, but also as we go into the next step, assuming the board approves the ALP tomorrow, as well as lease, that we reconnect with the FAA on next steps as the delegation is in. But looking at a short kind of time frame, they were suggesting the week of December 9th. I think we would want to get 2 commissioners again.
December 9th of 2024?
Yeah, I mean, a quick
Before the next
turnaround.
administration seats?
Yeah, I know, but we have a big meeting on December 10th with water.
And we have a big meeting, and so that's the rub, is they're in,
Well, we could do the 12th and 13th.
typically they're in session, that's the rub, is the 10th and 11th. And so we may have to, the next week is not good. We may not get as much. If we want the 3rd and the 4th would be the other option.
We're talking like 2 weeks.
Going prior to so that they can dole out the money prior to the next administration taking office?
Some of it
Yeah, it
is
sounds like that's
getting
what they're
our environmental process lined out with the signature of the ALP, and the other is lobbying on the RAISE grant that is likely to be made under the current administration.
And the RAISE grant for the,
That's the $2 million for the grant around the airport transportation
that's what I'm
hub.
saying, it's for the multimodal.
It's for the multimodal, yeah.
I can go the week of the 3rd, the 4th and 5th, or something like that.
That's like 2 weeks, guys.
I
Yeah,
know, it's really soon.
quick.
Yep.
And I think we should all be here on the 10th to meet with the River District, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
if it's not possible for all, if this is I think this is important.
I could go
I
on the
think
18th and 19th.
honestly, 3 or 4 of us could be here for a River District and still accomplish the task at hand.
That sends one to Washington.
So either 1 or 2.
What about the 18th, 19th, and 20th of December?
That is not a good week. I
Back there?
forget
Well,
what's
I'll be
happening,
left for the
back there.
holidays
It's not
by
a good
then.
week for us to,
Or the 16th?
according
The
to
whole
our-
week is out?
yeah.
What about,
The deadline for them to reach their continuing
Right.
resolution.
Yeah, they'll
That's
be-
the,
they'll
I
be
think that's
wrapping it
the
up by
issue.
then.
Thank you for that, Kelly.
I'm sorry, this is tricky with logistics for me,
understand.
so I'm not able, I think, in 2025, I see more light ahead.
Well,
and your
and
kids will be older.
this, look, there's gonna be more trips to get this, all of this done. This
Ongoing.
is,
I could do the 11th and 12th. The 10th is budget approval.
But he said the 12th doesn't work, or?
let me double check. They were encouraging, well, certainly meetings on Wednesday. Let me double check with Jessica on the
Okay.
availability on the 12th.
I could do the 3rd, or the,
We have a work session the 3rd, a regular meeting on the 4th. Northwest Cog I have on the
we
5th.
don't have a regular meeting on the 4th.
Yeah, we do.
That's the
We moved it
first.
because of the holiday.
You're right, okay, yeah.
The 4th and
4th and
18th.
18th.
What holiday? What are we talking?
Christmas.
November and December, we always meet the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays.
Oh, oh my God. Why isn't that on here?
There he is.
I know,
You
mine's
made
not
it.
on there either.
God,
It's not
that's
on there.
Okay, well, let us get some dates. It
Find
sounds
out.
like the board is a little spread out. We'll see if there's 1 or 2 that can go. Again, there's gonna be some more trips coming up in 25 as
We'll all have a
we
chance
try
to
and
go.
implement.
It's not a matter of us having a chance, it's continuity of conversation and connection, but we can always spread that out.
I'd make myself available whenever they can, it's optimal to be there. I think that's my priority.
Me too.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So our next,
Kurt.
our next presenter is in the room, next contestant. Why don't you come down, Kurt, and we'll shift back and
Hi,
get,
Kurt.
First at the
Nice to see you.
3rd. God.
all right, welcome. So we're live. We're okay, Andorra, everything's good? Is your light on your microphone?
Red lights.
Okay, excellent. All right, so Kurt Ravenschlag, who's the CEO, incoming, I guess you can't even say you're incoming, you're
You are
there.
it.
You're already at RAFTA, doing a great job, is here to give us a RAFTA report. And it was available for any questions you want to throw at him. And I'll be as helpful as I can, or I'll just get out of the way. And so welcome, Kurt.
All right, well, thank you so much. There might have been a little confusion. We had a presentation we could have brought today that I could have shared,
Good.
but it was indicated to just come and have a Q&A. So I came prepared for Q&A, but we do have a video. If anyone has access to RAFTA's YouTube page, there's a really nice video that
Rosa, can you do that, Rosa? Okay, Rosa's on.
we can share it maybe at the end. That's provides a really nice overview of all the things that RAFTA's been working on and our challenges for the future as well as opportunities. So it's a nice overview.
Could I ask just a opening question to make sure we get to it? I put it at the end of my list, but maybe budget, just
Yeah.
How RAFT is doing financially and what your prediction and crystal ball prediction is for the future administration, how that's going to affect RAFTA's. That's what we've been talking about up here.
Yes.
Fun with that.
Well, one of the really attractive aspects of RAFTA when I came here almost 7 years ago from the Front Range is close to 95% of RAFTA's operating and maintenance funding is locally generated through sales and property tax. A lot of transit systems throughout the country receive probably about 50, if not more, percent of their operating funding from the federal government. So we're a little insulated in that regard in terms of our operating and maintenance revenues, but our capital, like many others, we rely heavily on federal and state grant funding. So in terms of grant funding, we have been very successful over the last 3 to 4 years in obtaining grant funding for the capital needs of RAFTA, which are facility and rolling stock or buses. So we've obtained a significant portion of the funding that we'll need for probably the next 10 years. So in that regard, we've done well under the current administration and the various programs that were in place to help support public transportation as well as the transition to zero emission technologies across the country. So we've been very successful. As many are concerned and speculating, and there's lots of rumors, and it's kind of hard to know what the next 4 years will look like. So that's something that we're working with our current consultants, our lobbyists, to help us figure out how we're going to navigate the next 4 years in terms of grant funding opportunities. As I go through sort of the items I've came prepared to discuss today, there are a few big items that we would be seeking federal funding for in the next 4 years. So that will definitely be something that we'll need to strategize in how we pursue that. But in terms of our operating and maintenance, we feel pretty confident going into next year as well as the subsequent years that we feel pretty secure in the funding that we receive here locally in being able to maintain the levels of service that we provide currently.
Great, thank you for that. That's reassuring. It's nice to hear that during budget season in this climate.
Yes, for sure. And I can go more into our budget if you're interested. Currently, we're our operating and maintenance budget is about $72 million. Our total budget for 2025 is $152 million, which includes our capital. We have a number of large capital projects. As I mentioned, we received some large grants to help support those for facility expansion as well as purchase of electric buses.
And that totaled to about 47 million, is that correct? In grants
Yes,
this
we
year, 32
received a
and 15?
$32 million grant for the expansion of our Glenwood maintenance facility, as well as $15 million for the purchase, 100% funding for the purchase of 10 battery electric buses.
And some of that was a result of our trip to DC
Absolutely, it was, yes.
with friends. Good, Kelly, question.
Thank you. How much of that is attributable to the Destination 2040 increase? Was that, I can't remember if part of that was toward, part or all was towards capital or?
Yeah, so
part of
Destination 2040 was a 2.65 mill levy. At the time, it was estimated to be around a $9.5 million annual tax generation for RAFTA. It's grown since that original estimate. But that was a effort that was a planning process that started back in 2016 to identify capital needs within the region. But a number of those were assuming that there would be other dollars that would come from either grants or from local partners to fund those efforts. So not all of those projects that were on that list that made up Destination 2040 were fully funded by the mill.
Okay, so all that is part of the gap in capital that you
Right,
talked
so
about
that's
for your-
why
in the
we're
not
still
gap,
pursuing the grants, the
difference
federal
in the budget.
grants to
Yeah,
purchase buses and expand the facilities.
okay.
So I guess on that topic of facilities, just to give you an overview of some of the projects that we're wrapping up this year. We've had a number of construction projects. So one that we just did a ribbon cutting on was the grade separation underpasses at 27th Street and Highway 82 in Glenwood Springs. That's one of the busiest and also was one of the most dangerous intersections in Glenwood Springs. There at 27th and 82. It's also where RAFTA has its 27th Street station, where a lot of connections are being made. for local service in Glenwood, as well as the regional service to head up and down Valley. So that provided an underpass under 27th Street that also provides a trail connection for the Rio Grande Trail as well. So now they won't have to cross that grade at 27th. They can go under the underpass. And then also a tunnel under Highway 82 to connect to the transit station. So
Patty, sorry.
Can I just offer a suggestion to that? I was there for the ribbon cutting,
Uh-huh.
which was great. And I don't know if it's already in the planning, maybe it's something to just follow up with at some point, is mirrors because of the speed of bicycles traveling, pedestrians.
Bike paths. are on
Yeah,
that side.
it mirrors so, because you're coming out of the blind tunnel onto a busy bike path. I think that'll just avoid
Good idea.
Yeah.
conflict.
great, noted
Thank
that. So that one we're just putting the finishing touches on. We did the ribbon cutting, but there's still little pieces like possibly mirrors that we're putting on to that project. Another very large one that's been critical for RAFTA's ability to continue to serve the region's transit needs, which we're envisioning also including the I-70 corridor, as well as our ability to transition to zero emission technologies, has been the expansion of our Glenwood Springs maintenance facility. So historically, the Aspen maintenance facility has sort of been the hub of RAFTA activity for decades. But as things have moved down Valley in terms of services, but also people, that we've recognized that Aspen is almost becoming more of a satellite hub because less and less people are able to live near the Aspen facility from a RAFTA staff standpoint. But also our services are continuing to extend further and further. So we have regional services out to Rifle now with our hogback service. But that has been becoming really the central location of RAFTA is our Glenwood Springs maintenance facility. So to be able to prepare for the future growth we're expecting, primarily coming out of the I-70 corridor, as well as the ability to operate a zero transmission fleet, which means buses with batteries that need to be in conditioned spaces and not just parked out in the snow. We needed to expand that property. So for the last several years we've been working on, I should say, we had to break up the components of that project into multiple phases because for many years, RAFTA was kind of pursuing the big, large number, which is really difficult to try to find grant funding for $100 million project or plus. So we broke it up into phases. And we've been working on phases 3, 4, 5, and 7, which include an expansion of our fueling. We added a new fueling lane. And we also constructed a facility that will store 60 buses indoors. It also comes with an operations center. And being that, if any of you are familiar with that site, it's on the side of a mountain. So a lot of the project costs had to do with building a property on the side of the mountain and grading and various retaining walls and circulation. So that project is about $75 million in total, those phases, and we're expecting to move in around Thanksgiving, so here in a couple weeks. So we're very excited to be wrapping that project up. And by adding that second fuel lane, that was really one of the linchpins to that facility of being able to, it limited how many buses we could operate out of that property. So adding that second fuel lane as well as providing the garage essentially doubled our capacity that we can operate out of that property. We did have a nice project on the trail too. I think you all know that Rafton also owns the Rio Grande Rail Corridor. There's a recreational trail there. We repaved about 5 miles of trail between, I want to say, Emma Road and Catherine Store. So that was a big project for us this year for our trail users. We're also doing a rehab on the Roaring Fork Bridge. That's a bridge right outside of Carbondale. We needed to fix some of the foundational pylons for that bridge. So they're wrapping that up. And we've also, you may have heard, purchased a hotel that we're converting into employee housing. And That's a hotel in Glenwood Springs. It's on Highway 6 there. And it used to be the Roadway Inn, if any of you are familiar with that property. So, and we're just wrapping that project up.
What was the total cost on purchase plus renovation? Or
More than we
ballpark?
anticipated.
Okay, yeah, more, yeah,
It's the
right.
purchase price was about $4 million, and the rehab reconstruction of it was probably another $6 million. So it's coming in at about
Really?
11,
I
12
didn't realize
million.
it was that much.
Yep. So, but the good news is that project will be ready by December 2nd, and we'll be able to start moving employees in at the beginning of the year. And
How
that
many will you
provided
house there?
42 units. Yep.
And the residences, is that finished and are people living
It's a
there?
deal.
The one next to Frida's?
Hotel
Yes, so
rooms.
that's a property we're leasing. We have a master lease with the property owner, and we have about 30 units there that we lease and then sublease to our employees.
And this construction phase is over there?
They're complete with those, yep. They remodeled those units.
Yeah.
They're actually looking to sell the property now, I believe.
Oh,
So they're asking us if we're interested.
Wow.
So on the vein of construction, 2025, we're continuing with a number of projects. We have GMF, our Glenwood Maintenance Facility, phases 6A and 6B, and a phase 8. 6A is a new West Glenwood Springs Transit Center. So that will be a facility very similar to Ruby Park, but on the west end of Glenwood Springs. It's currently a park and ride location. But that will provide much needed customer services in Glenwood Springs. I don't know if you've ever heard from customers riding RAFTA that
It's
they need to-
it's like the worst stop on the line, right? The last stop ought to be
Right, and it's right next to where a lot of our offices are, but we don't really have any customer services available. So if someone has lost and found items or they want to purchase a ticket, they're getting sent to Aspen to do that. So this will provide some great amenity for our customers. We also have an administration building that's part of that. That's 6B. That'll allow RAFTA to consolidate a lot of its office space. We're currently scattered all throughout the valley in various leased offices and some properties that are owned in Carbondale. So this will allow a lot of RAFTA's administrative staff to come together in one location. And then we can relinquish some of those other properties that we currently own or are leasing. I know next item I'm going to move on to is the climate action plan that we just completed and adopted, our board adopted this year. That really laid out a plan for RAFTA to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions. We recognize that the majority of our emissions come from the operation of our buses itself versus our facilities. So that's an area where we have targeted to reduce our emissions within the region. And with that climate action plan, we created a zero emission transition plan to transition our entire fleet to zero emission. And in summary, it was right now, knowing that technologies are evolving almost daily, that it's anticipating a split between all battery electric buses and hydrogen buses. There was a feeling that hydrogen buses would really be a great solution for this region because the distances that we travel, we're not in a tight urban area where we're able to circulate and get back to a charging point quickly. We travel many, many miles, and hydrogen could really work well, which are essentially electric buses still. They operate off battery technology, and the hydrogen is what's charging the batteries versus plugging into the grid. So that's something we're excited about, and we're making moves in that direction. So I think I mentioned that we're planning to place another order for 10 battery electric buses this year. The order timeframe on those vehicles has been growing and growing over the years. It used to be about 12 months from when you ordered a bus to take receipt. Now it's looking like 24 months.
geez.
So we're expecting those buses to be received in 2026. But on that vein, with battery electric buses, one of the challenges is just range of how many miles we can get out of those buses. Currently, we can get about 120 miles. We'd like to get around 250 for those to be a one-for-one replacement of a diesel bus. So our strategy to extend the range on those vehicles is to incorporate what we refer to as en-route charging. So some of you may have seen at Ruby Park that we've installed an en-route charger there. And that will allow buses that are coming into Ruby Park that are either local buses or regional buses to pull into that charging point. And there's a pantograph that lowers down onto the roof of the bus, and we'll be able to recharge that bus to a full state of charge in about 15 minutes. So with that,
Insane. How much power is that that has to go?
it's a lot.
400 volt, 800 volt?
I
It's probably
don't have that
800 maybe,
information
yeah,
for
it's a
you,
big,
but
It's
it's a
gotta
big
be
deal.
a lot.
It's a lot.
It must pull like, God, 90 amps or something.
And I can get you that information too. So we have that one installed there at Ruby Park, and we also have one that we received grant funding for to install at that new West Glenwood Springs Transit Center. So we'll have one on either end. Another area that's of big priority for RAFTA, and I know our board of directors, is what we refer to as first and last mile mobility. So that is, how do folks get from their residence to a bus stop, and how do they get off of a bus to their final destination? And many times that's not right where the bus stop is. So that's looking at ways of how we can utilize bike sharing, like WeCycle, where somebody can, when they get off the bus, there's a bike share opportunity available to them, or a new option that's been getting rolled out throughout the valley is what we refer to as microtransit or on-demand transit, very much like Uber or Lyft, where through an app, somebody could, once they get off the bus, request a ride, and there's a vehicle that'll come pick them up and take them to their destination. So RAFTA has helped kickstart 3 of these right now. The first started in Basalt. They're on their 3rd year of operating the Basalt Connect. Carbondale just launched theirs this year. I think they call theirs the Downtowner, as well as the one here
Circulator,
at
is it
Aspen.
a circulator or downtowner?
Yeah, I think they call it the Downtowner.
Okay.
And then Glenwood Springs will be launching theirs next year. So between bike share and microtransit, RAFTA right now is really working hard to create those options for our customers to extend their trips beyond the bus.
And those aren't fully funded, right? So
No.
there's the funding gap that part.
Yep, so that's what we've brought to our board's attention this year, is that these particularly programs that require operating and maintenance funding versus just capital, RAFTA hasn't really been situated to fund those on an ongoing basis. So these services, though, are a priority to RAFTA. So we've formed a board subcommittee, which Greg is on, and we'll be talking for the next 6 to 7 months to develop solutions on what RAFTA's role should be in first and last mile solutions, as well as how we might fund those.
If I could just briefly, it seems that it would be really great if we had one app, one brand for the entire transit system. Go ahead.
Can I just chime in? Yeah. I mean, I'd love to understand some more of that thinking, because, you know, it seems like WeCycle can know exactly who is using it, exactly how many times, to exactly which points in a period of time. You know, I think it would be so helpful if RAFTA had that same kind of level of information and how they're linking systems, you know, through the valley. I don't know if there's any
Through a single app.
contemplation of trying
Ideally,
to
a
do that.
single app would
Yeah.
do that, right? And did another hand up somewhere?
I'd love an answer
We'll
to
keep
that
go-
question, but.
Yeah, we'll get you one.
Yeah.
That's part of the conversation we're having. Oh, Steve, thank you. Thanks, Rosa.
So on the RTCC committee, Regional Transportation Coordinating Committee, we do have a subgroup working on finding an app that can be used across all of the different transit agencies, including Mustang. RAFTA, it would tie into WeCycle, would tie into the Downtowners tie into ride sharing and all of the above. So people could have just one app that could do all of that, and that's something that we're working on there. If anybody has any leads or ideas, if you could get them to me, that would be great.
Thanks, Steve. That's good to know.
Yeah, there's definitely a desire for us to have that seamless connectivity for the customers utilizing RAFTA and all the various bike share solutions. So we're currently structured in a way where our bike share solution is contracted via WeCycle. Microtransit is contracted through a company I believe their name is the Downtowner. It's what operates here in Aspen as well. I think they're based out of Florida, but they have their own separate app. WeCycle has their own separate technology. RAFTA has their own. And then Bustang, to make it more complicated, we luckily actually have the same solution as Bustang. But to make them talk to each other, you have to pay an additional fee for that to happen. So there is definitely a desire for us to figure out how we can bring those all together to one solution.
Well, and I mean, for me, the motivation is less customer serving than policy making, right? Like, I feel like the data and information would be so useful
Yep.
in identifying just how people are moving and where are the gaps and who is using what resources that we have.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
Agreed. Yeah, it'll be helpful for all the way around. My pet project is to try to get the Downtowner just to go electric with their vehicles. I think it's time to do that. They're short run vehicles. It's just an investment on their part, but I'll keep trying to nudge them.
And just to expand on that, the way this program is currently working for RAFTA is we were able to set aside some seed funding. I think originally started with about $5 million that we used to deliver grants to our member jurisdictions. So currently, jurisdictions like Basalt and Carbondale and Glenwood Springs have submitted grants, and in those grants, we would pay up to 50% of the costs of that program for a 3-year period. So right now, Basalt has reached that 3-year period of where RAFTA has been paying 50%. And that's why we've formed the subcommittee, because the question is, okay, 3 years is up. Does Basalt have the ability to cover that remaining 50%? And the answer is no. And we're hearing that same response from the other jurisdictions as well, that when their 3 years are up, that they would be hard-pressed to find that funding. So this conversation will lead to sort of what involvement RAFTA has. Currently, these systems are owned by the jurisdictions, so decisions like what type of vehicle they buy is a decision that they're making themselves, not necessarily RAFTA. That could change, though, if we went in a different direction.
Great. Thanks for that. Kelly?
I don't know if you have more to bring up, but I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I'm curious about two things in particular. I guess discussion or ideas around maximizing use of the park and ride and getting more riders to get off, stop driving there and get on the bus into Aspen. And then, oh gosh, I just forgot my
That's a good
second one.
start.
That's a good start. And let me remember my second question.
Getting a parking ride that's not full. I know Francie's talked about Carbondale being full up, right?
There were so many parking spots this morning, I couldn't even
Really?
believe it.
Maybe
I
they're
just
just
pulled
not
right
coming.
in and parked, and the bus wasn't too crowded, and of course it took a really long time to get here, but it was comfortable.
That's what I discovered.
So in
driver
addition to
was
that
cautious.
question, I was curious about discussions relative to the fare-free
Right.
The
district.
cost, what would it cost to go fare free? Is that
Yeah.
that's the big question.
Yeah, and can
A
we
way
plan
forward.
for that? What do we need?
Yeah.
What are the hurdles? Is that the thing that's gonna be the tipping point to getting more people on?
Yes. So within our climate action plan, one of the things we identified was not only transitioning to zero emission vehicles, but how do we get more people utilizing the existing service that's already in place? Because we have capacity, particularly at off-peak times of the day. So we have an initiative right now we're working on that we're hoping we can put into effect next year. But fares is one of those potential barriers that is keeping somebody off of a bus. So right now we're working to, I can't say if it's going to be fare-free or not, or a reduction in fares. I think it could be fare-free. But right now, starting with incentivizing periods of the day where we have capacity to take on more riders. And that's something that we are looking at doing next year. I think right now we're kind of dipping our toes into that world of possibly going fare-free. I think that is definitely a great tool in maximizing ridership. We have to, though, then be prepared to accommodate that increased demand, so make sure that we have the equipment and the drivers to be able to accommodate that, which we are getting to a much better place now than we were last year or 2-3 years from now. Coming out of the pandemic, that's probably been one of our biggest challenges, is getting our staffing levels back up to where they were prior to the pandemic. But we've made some aggressive moves with our wages over in the last year that really helped in that regard. So we are seeing our ability to recruit and retain our drivers increasing significantly. So that then puts us in a much better place to be able to have those conversations of adding more capacity
Just
to the system.
to add on to that, could you tell us the percentage by which wages increased in the last year or so? It's dramatic.
Yes, so our bus operators are unionized, so they're within a collective bargaining agreement. We're nearing the end of a 4-year agreement that began in 2021, I believe. And that agreement, what they negotiated back in 2020, they negotiated it, plus what RAFTA added, which was about a 22% increase to what they negotiated. In total, their wages have increased about 53% since 2021. So it's been a significant increase. And much of that came from what we felt we needed to increase their wages by to be able to make RAFTA competitive in recruiting and retaining our workforce. And that's worked. They're currently the highest paid bus operators in the state of Colorado. I believe they're 12th nationally. So they're in a good spot. RAFTA's in a good spot to be competitive in recruiting and retaining. And we're currently on that topic. You may have seen some media on our current negotiations with our collective bargaining unit, our union, and we believe that we're hopefully going to make some progress here soon that will avoid any strikes that have been discussed in the papers. So
We're optimistic.
yeah, we're optimistic. So, so in regards to free service, I think that is definitely something I know that we've heard from leaders in this valley, that there's interest of that. We're interested in seeing how we can get more passengers on the bus, and that's something RAFT is definitely open to. So,
Francie?
The income from fares is like only $500,000 or less than that, right?
it's about $5 million.
Oh, it is that much? Well, maybe I was thinking of just one of the routes, so.
What's the percentage then of total revenue?
Oh, I want to say it's around 6.
6%.
Yeah.
Yeah, is fair. Yeah, so it's still a pretty low
Pretty
percentage.
very low.
Part of the thing about expanding the service is it does become a housing problem at some point. If we increase drivers dramatically, we've got to figure out how to get them housed, and that's been such a huge hurdle.
Well, that's one of the great things about the center being down in Glenwood now instead of up here.
Yes, we recognize that the majority of any new people that we're adding to RAFTA is likely going to be living in the I-70 corridor versus the 82 corridor. So living closer to where you work is definitely a plus when you're accepting a job. So.
I'm thinking we're probably running out of time,
Okay.
but if there's anything else you want to put it, I don't want to rush you out of here, but we've got so much going today that I want to keep us. Go ahead.
You know, and I appreciate your trying to get people on the bus during the off times, the lower peak times. But that's a problem when everybody has to be up here to go to work.
Right.
Everybody has to go home about the same time. Because last winter, I didn't receive as many calls because I think the gentleman retired from work, so he wasn't having to get up to Aspen. But with the capacity issues in the morning, on top of not being able to find a place to park, but not being able to get on a bus, because the buses were full and going by him, and he had to be up here to open his store. So, and I don't know how, that's a tough one. How do we upsize just during the morning and evenings, and what do we do with people during the day? Used to be drivers would drive in the morning, drive in the evening, and ski all day.
Right.
But we don't have that generation.
That's
anymore.
interesting, because I've never been on a bus that didn't stop and pile more people in. I think one time a bus driver said there's another one right behind me, but mostly they just fill up the aisles and just
By the
keep
time they got
Is
to-
there a limit to how many people are supposed to be on a bus?
The yellow line.
Exactly.
Right at
How
the
many
driver.
back in- He was in Elgerbell, and it happened to him multiple
No
times.
kidding.
Yeah, it does happen.
He's retired then,
Buses are
so
full. This
I don't
morning
know
was
if that
full.
forced him to retire or if he was just getting ready to retire. But
Yeah.
It's-
We could do a lot more
Thank
on
you.
that topic, but
Yeah.
it's interesting how Kurt has been able to navigate a complicated, expensive, and housing situation all tied up within expanding bus service. So, thank you for that. Anything else? Other than thanks for driving all the way up here and sharing this with us.
Yeah. I did miss the question on the park and rides. That is something that really does require expansion. We are looking at some opportunities in the Mid-Valley for expansion, as well as in Glenwood Springs to expand park and ride opportunities. So that will be maybe not the fix, but hopefully it'll provide more opportunities for people to access
Expansion
the buses.
Of parking places?
Yeah, park and rides.
I mean, I still would love to see, you know, some pilot project where we can inform people of travel time between Brush Creek and Aspen. You know, 40 minutes in your car, 15 minutes on the bus, you know, or something like that. And I don't fully understand how that's, you know, we've talked about it at the EOTC, we've talked about, it just seems like it's somehow insurmountable and.
You mean on an Amber Alert sign?
Like
you
a
mean, or
variable
message
Yeah,
road sign?
one of the, I mean, we have one
We
that's
get
now
CDOT.
up,
We
that's
can
now
get
permanent.
CDOT to do that.
You know, I know that there's a thing about the technologies, like I feel like it maybe our standards need to be simpler or something, like, you know,
I think it's
imperfect
possible.
could
I mean,
still be good.
I know that that exists on I-70. I just drove
Right.
that yesterday, so I think the technology exists. That's something though that I will take back. I think that was one of our initiatives identified in Destination 2040. I think we were told at the time that it was taken care of, but we might be able to help move that idea forward.
I love the one on I-70.
Try it
because you
out.
always try and beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
25 minutes to Silverthorne, I'm gonna beat
Or I'm
it.
just like, do I need to get off and go to the bathroom now before I sit in 3 hours before the tunnel, you know, or whatever.
I always
Like,
try to
it's-
do it before I get to the next one.
So anybody have any other questions, suggestions, comments?
No, it's nice
Send
of
them
you
to
come
me
up.
or
Thank
send them to
you.
Kurt or
Thank you.
copy us both and
Appreciate it.
we'll keep the dialogue going. But thank you all for your
Careful driving
questions.
back
for
in.
coming up, Kurt.
Are you on the
Kurt, thanks for
bus?
coming.
Yes, and I'll send that video link to you all.
Great,
so you
yeah,
can
we get a
take
chance to look at it
that.
offline.
Great.
Pretty pictures, so.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, appreciate
Kurt.
it.
It's exciting. I am so proud to be on the RAFTA board, I have to say. It's really a highlight for me. Okay. All right, we're going to keep moving, and sorry, we're a little bit behind, but we'll catch up. This will be quick, right? Lisa and Lisa are going to just fly through this
Liz
next
here.
one. Come on down. Fly right through it. Yes, I'm trying to lubricate the wheels here.
Happy birthday to
Trying to make us more aerodynamic.
There you go.
exclamation point.
Well, I can even start while these guys get set up a little bit. I am Lisa McDonald with the Healthy Rivers Program, joined by Lisa Tasker with the program as well. We have the ladies from EcoFlight joining us today for a grant request that the River Board approved or recommended for approval at its September 19th meeting. We heard 2 grant applications this fall. Generally, the board hears grant applications in the spring and in the fall. Our budget for 2024 is $200,000, and the spring grants totaled $114,164. These 2 grants today total $63,160. So we'll still have a little bit of funding left over. I think there's only one time we ever spent our entire grant budget. So just a little information there for you. So I think I'll let Leah take over and hear about the overflights of the Crystal River grant.
Yeah, and maybe real quick, this is Leah Lintz Her. She's now married. Did I get that right? Is that how you pronounce that?
Close.
Okay. Hero. Okay. Okay.
Oh, that's
Hero.
a nice name.
Yes, that's much. It's
And
love
Leah,
it.
you're from the Valley, right? You're
Yeah.
from the Valley, and I was impressed with your very brief CV put in the presentation. So your education, MS in, is it? You have to tell me because I've already forgotten.
Public policy, Master of Public Administration, Environmental Policy concentration.
Great. So I think it's great addition to EcoFlight.
Well, thank you so much.
And then who's with you?
Amanda Grimstead. Yeah.
Hi,
you wanna-
Amanda. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
yeah, and she's their communications director.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What director?
Communications.
yeah.
Okay.
You can speak for yourself. It's okay. I won't have to
Yeah,
fill
we'll just
in your
fill it in
words.
for you. Okay, in the interest of keeping things moving,
Yep.
give us your spiel.
Yeah. Well, thank you, as always, for the opportunity to be here and present to all of you. And dare I say, the world is probably a little bit different place than the last time I sat here and visited with you all, and even when we wrote this application a couple months ago. So I am glad that we have an opportunity to chat now, and I think that we have a lot clearer picture of how this next year is going to look like in terms of the Crystal River campaign and our overflights, and kind of the broader political landscape as well. So we are requesting $35,160 to continue educational and advocacy overflights in order to secure wild and scenic designation for the Crystal River. And I think that has become even more timely and important in light of recent events, including the election, of course, and the reconvening of the steering committee for the first time since early 2024. A wild and scenic designation of the Crystal is only more important. Is it all working?
Yep.
Okay. It's more important than ever. The Crystal is one of the last free-flowing rivers in Colorado, and as drought conditions only worsen across the West and climate change becomes a bigger factor, protecting these last free-flowing rivers is important for our communities, for ecosystems, for our climate, and for everyone who relies on these rivers. I will also continue in my role as the co-chair of the Wild and Scenic Feasibility Subcommittee, which is an offshoot of the Crystal River Wild and Scenic and Other Alternatives Feasibility Committee, which is a mouthful, and was facilitated by contractors Wendy Lowe and Jacob Bornstein. That wrapped up this spring. They're contracted, and we broke off into subcommittees after that. I'm one of the co-chairs along with Hattie Johnson from American Whitewater and Michael Gorman from Wilderness Workshop. And if this presentation is working, can you all, I don't see it anywhere, but,
That TV is
That one doesn't work.
oh, okay, great.
We have a screen down
But-
here, and then there's
but we
the
don't
two.
see
Oh,
anything yet
perfect,
on
okay.
but
Just double checking I
Don't
wasn't.
see it yet?
Nothing up
It's
yet.
right down there. They have
No,
a
there,
screen.
nothing's coming up.
Nothing's on there.
Oh,
Okay,
there's
just wanted
nothing
to
on
make
there?
sure.
Oh.
I don't see
Are
it.
you
I think we have to.
Oh, whoops. Yeah. We need technical help.
Question, how
Right.
long is the presentation? I'm just wondering, I may need to abbreviate. I don't want to
we
cheat
had-
you of time, but we're kind of in a rush.
We had planned 30 minutes, but I will
If you
keep.
can give me a little bit less, that'd
Yeah.
be great. Help me
That
get
was
back on
supposed to be
schedule.
We're pretty
including
familiar
questions.
with.
Not to
healthy
take it
rivers
away.
and streams.
I did want to get into just
let's see.
the healthy rivers, the scoring, feedback.
Yeah,
can jump to that.
That's kind of, I think we're all super supporters of all the great work EcoFlight does across the world and the valley.
We'll be speedy.
Leah, I thought your presentation at the meeting was really good, for Wild and Scenic. That
Oh,
was
thank you.
really good. Some of the other ones maybe not so much, but yours was great.
Well, I'll skip through some of these slides. This was information that was included in either our progress report in August or our application submitted shortly after. So some passenger highlights and flight stats, just a graphic view of our budget. So I'll take this slide as an opportunity to kind of address your comment there and some of the feedback that we got after
And that's marble we're looking at, is that
so
right?
that's the Beaver Lake is in the middle there, and Treasure Mountain and kind of headwaters of the Crystal beyond that. So
Down with a lake. I love it.
most of my slides are just photos. I'm
That's
gonna
fine.
be honest.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I did want to address some of the feedback we got from the Healthy Rivers Board. Like I said, a lot has happened in the last couple of months, and I think that, a lot of things are evolving quickly, and we do have a clear path forward. But I will address some of those comments nonetheless. I just wanted to first state, which I hope I don't have to spend too much time restating, that EcoFlight has been one of the most enduring and positive supporters of a wild and scenic designation for many years, well before my time with the organization. Bruce Gordon, our chief pilot, will tell you over and over, as will I, that the Crystal River remains one of the most spectacular places he has flown, and he has flown all over the world in the West. And this river has been near and dear to me since I was a child. I grew up in Carbondale on the banks of the Crystal as well, and that was kind of the first place I learned to love rivers and wilderness and all of those wonderful things. So, I have said, and will say it again, this river deserves nothing less than a gold standard protection, and that is what a wild and scenic river designation does. I wanted to kind of revisit, I went back into some of our old applications and kind of how our goals for this have evolved over time. They haven't drastically changed. We wrote our Senate, and this is our first application to the Healthy Rivers Board. Our senators have indicated that they prefer to see a strong local support at the town and county levels before they act on issues like this. Therefore, it is crucial to build groundswell of support from local citizens and government and continue to communicate the support to Colorado's leaders in Congress. All of EcoFlight's work to date has been focused on building that support, and we have a unique platform to do it, using the plane as a highly inspiring and targeted advocacy tool that does look a little bit different than some of the tools that our partners use. And sometimes that kind of non-public forum is the most ideal place to advocate for a wild and scenic designation, which we do strongly on flights. And it's a unique way to connect with especially kind of reluctant supporters or people who haven't publicly voiced support yet. And you all know that past decades of wild and scenic work have been kind of thwarted by opponents digging in their heels and over my dead body type rhetoric. And the subcommittee process and steering committee process has really given us a different way forward. And I do think that our congressional representatives are paying attention. Senator Bennett's staff have been regularly attending meetings and regularly communicating with us and with the other members of the subcommittee, and I would call that significant progress toward designation. So, what can I skip here? I will say this last, a couple weeks ago, the steering committee reconvened for the first time since Wendy and Jacob's contract ended last spring, and that was a bit of a tense moment. We weren't super sure what to expect. Overall, I think it went as good as it could have gone. I hope that other folks who were there agree with that, but it was definitely an opportunity for us to reevaluate and adjust our strategy moving forward, which we are planning to do in January, and save a bit more space in these subcommittee meetings for myself and the other co-chairs to interject, correct information, kind of play that more informed advocate role, which I think we've struggled to fit in a little bit in the subcommittee effort to this point, and I will say that. So, that is our plan moving forward. I think more small group work, more kind of problem-solving discussion, and of course we're included in our application. EcoFlight is diversifying the staff included in overflight planning a bit more. Of course, we're a small team and everything's a team effort, but to this point it's primarily been me planning flights and representing EcoFlight on the committees, and I think that that's been very informative for both and helpful, but it will help to have someone else kind of organizing flights and really playing that strong advocate role where I can continue to facilitate conversations in the subcommittee while also being an advocate. Let's see here. Again, these are just kind of our overflight goals that are included in our application. I will skim through them, but please let me know if you have questions about them. We want to use our platform to empower other community advocates and connect potential advocates with existing advocates to make sure folks are informed and able to speak about the benefits of a crystal wild and scenic designation. Of course, engaging with elected officials and community leaders, and that can be, of course, elected and appointed officials in towns and counties that we're trying to get the support of, as well as unofficial community leaders like business owners and folks in the community who are kind of looked to as expert voices on things happening in the valley. We want to, of course, amplify community support. There is a broad base of community support, especially in, we have a petition with many thousands of signatures on it. There's long-standing history of this. So we do want to make sure that that is not a fact that gets buried when we're talking to press and talking to elected officials and things like that, that there is a lot of community support for wild and scenic. And with that, I will turn it over to Amanda to talk a little bit about our strategy for engaging press and some of our other outreach activities.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. And I hope this is good. Let me know.
Lights on, you're good.
Red.
On.
It's kind of hard to see. We need to
I know it's
make it
weird,
brighter.
red to go
Thank you,
and
guys.
green to stop.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep this brief as well, but yes, engaging press has been, and this addresses, I think, some of the questions we received earlier as well, but engaging press continues to be critically important as this Crystal River Wild and Scenic campaign progresses. Aspen Times and Aspen Daily News have new staff writing on the environment, and we aim to fly them during this grant period. Those two outlets, along with other regional outlets, has also formed a Western Slope reporting team, and this is to unite forces and better cover issues on the Western Slope. We'll fly those journalists and photographers, and we'll educate that new collaborative, and we will also work to pursue flights with Aspen Journalism and Aspen Public Radio, who have recently formed a new collaborative as well, creating a social justice desk edition. So these flights will have really far-reaching benefits. The Crystal Wild and Scenic campaign is complicated, and the public needs to better understand the complexities of the subcommittee and the potentials for legislative designations that are being considered. Engaging with media on our flight is really one of the best, it's an unequivocally strong way to showcase the beauty of the valley and the Crystal and its ample values, and to connect those people with a positive conservation message coming from an expert or a community member, someone who really values the Crystal and knows about it and wants a wild and scenic designation. It's targeted, it's strategic, and we have a lot of new press coming into different positions who have an ability to educate our valley and our state in a really exciting way. We need strong advocates, and this is a good way to do it. Which takes me to our next point. 30% of the greater Roaring Fork Valley is Latinx, and a new focus that we included in this grant application is to better engage our Latinx communities through overflights. It's a large stakeholder group, and it's often historically overlooked, especially in these spaces of conservation. Our flights, as we listed in our proposal, aim to engage Latinx leaders in our community on the benefits of a wild and scenic wild and scenic river designation for their water resources. We hope to use overflights to create strong advocates for the Crystal and to allow our Latinx community to better connect with this issue overall. Our focus passengers will include community leaders, faith leaders, business, industry leaders, conservationists. We plan to educate on how a wild and scenic designation can protect their water resources from dams and misuse, and how it can promote social equity. Our partnerships will continue to build with Defiende Nuestra Tierra, along with Western Colorado Alliance, English language development programs, and we will also fly Sol de Vie with the Sopra Sun. Addressing these environmental challenges like dam construction and river protection are really collaborative issues, and they will require all of our population groups to come together and engage. So with flying, the Latinx communities will really work to build a stronger and broader coalition and drive an equitable change here, and just help the resilience and well-being of all the communities through this protection. And lastly, we also want to focus on collecting more aerial photos and imageries like you've seen in this presentation. Our photos are really powerful, and in a world where nothing is free, EcoFlight has a really extensive media library that is utilized by all of our partners working on this issue, hopefully you all, and whatever needs you have. And our imagery just lets the land speak for itself in a special way. So yeah, thank you all so much for listening. And
Ask if
please,
you'd
yeah,
have you reached out to Radio Tricolor? Do you know Samuel Bernal? He's kind of a big influencer, and it's Radio Tricolor is the Latino radio, and his wife, whose name is just. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I just asked Rosa.
we
Rosa will
haven't connected with them.
connect with Rosa. Will connect you with them.
Yes,
Ileana
please do.
is amazing,
That'd be
and
great.
she's so out there on social media and
Yeah,
just as
that's good. We've been pursuing new forms of social media. I should mention too. We've started doing TikTok, and our Crystal River videos. I mean, they get thousands and thousands of views, which is a new
Surprising.
thing for us. And
Yeah.
so and we've done podcasts about the Yampa and free flowing rivers, and so we hope to pursue all kinds of stuff.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to make that connection.
Yeah.
Now, I
That's
want to
great.
cut to the chase
Yes.
with you guys. What's happening with healthy rivers and streams? It sounds like they're getting discouraged, and it makes me nervous that do we need to reinvigorate that board somehow? Well, it's hard. It's hard when you beat your head against the wall.
Yeah.
Kelly would agree.
Yeah.
I mean,
We have a joint meeting coming up with Healthy
Yeah,
Rivers
and
and
we're
Streams.
working on a lot of that, and we're having some conversations behind the scenes for sure. And yes, also do think that there is a tendency when they get these score sheets to kind of say, "Oh, I didn't say this," so a little bit of that might be happening, and so they kind of put that down. We were hoping to have maybe Bill Yoakams join us if anybody wanted to ask him a question, but I don't know that he was able to. But anyway, yeah, I think. And obviously there's going to be some more conversations. I mean, we all know this, many of us sitting in the room after November 5th, right? So, yeah, but I think, yeah, it's ongoing, Greg, and thank you so much, though, for actually pushing on that and having that come from you. It's really helpful.
right, thank you. Patty and then Francie.
Yeah, we do have a joint meeting
Then
coming
Kelly.
up with Healthy Rivers and Streams and the BoCC, so it might be a good opportunity for us to chat about this issue. I'd like to know, you mentioned, I think, 135 flights. Are those all for Healthy Rivers, all for the Wild and Scenic, or is it, I know there's other issues out there you've been flying people around for?
Yeah, that number was specifically for Crystal River.
Crystal
So it
River.
was 134
So,
passengers
yeah.
and like 31 or 32 flights.
Okay, I just want
And
to
that
make sure
was-
if we're giving money from Healthy Rivers and Streams specifically for the Wild and Scenic, that we have some kind of tracking it's not being used for
You're
other-
tracking your clients or your passengers.
Yes,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
flight.
I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
because we have the fiduciary responsibility to do that.
course,
And
yeah.
I think you're right, November 5th, we don't know what's going to happen with, especially in issues here in Colorado, with our wilderness and our wildlands and et cetera, water issues. So I think we need to be keeping a close eye on that. But yeah, I'm supportive of a grant, again, as long as we kind of keep a monitor and have this discussion moving forward in 2025 about designation.
Francie and then
Yeah,
Kelly.
I was kind of alarmed to read the comments from the board on Wild and Scenic. I thought it was depressing as hell, actually, and I just wonder how many other people are feeling that way. The last time I talked to Michael Bennett, he was discouraged that there might not be another land use bill before the Congress for quite a while. So,
4 years.
and I just, I don't know. It just seemed like maybe people were worn out and discouraged by the election and didn't really see much point in going on with the Wild and Scenic push. That's what I.
Thanks for bringing that up. Thank you. I don't know if you want to respond to that, but I was going to go to Kelly next.
Well, these were submitted before the election.
Yes, before the election.
I mean, I would, as
Yeah.
as the board's spearhead on this campaign, I'm feeling very discouraged. I think we're losing this fight.
It's hard, yeah.
On a local level or national level or both?
Personal, local.
I mean, both. I don't think the recent conversations I've had with the senator's office have been positive. They have been concerned about the opposition. EcoFlight's request here is for flyovers, which I think they're very good at. I think EcoFlight is wearing two different hats in this. So their unequivocal support for Wild and Scenic is not showing up that way in the broader process. And so sometimes it feels like Pickens County is who is out in lead on this, and it's a short bench behind us. And so I feel like the conversations have have swayed towards the opposition and towards the forever no voices in the room. You know, I'm supportive of the advocacy that EcoFlight does in private on the plains. I think that like our broader coalition is fragmented and not strong, and that we're not shoring up the dissent with all the positives that the wild and scenic goals have. So that's my sort of feeling about it. So I was not as surprised to read that, I think, from Bill and from Andre relative to the conversations. Of course, our political landscape has completely changed, but I do think that that is sort of my honest assessment of where we're at. And there's been some dialogue about how we can better overcome some of that. I think that there are strategies, you know, perhaps to get our coalition out of a facilitation role and get hired facilitators to move the subcommittee into a place where we can face our dissent head on. Because I think that that's where we're stuck, is being able to deal with where we disagree in a productive way to continue along a path of figuring out where the subcommittee can agree. So I don't know.
And after Francie, I've got to.
Go ahead, Francie.
I think one of the reasons for the attrition in interest is how long it's been. And I know Bill Fales said at the last meeting, you know, Thompson Divide took 20 years, don't be in such a rush. But I do think that we lost the momentum we had 2 years ago. And as I've said quite a few times, we've amplified the voice of the opposition. There are 2 people in opposition, basically, and 10,000 in favor. And so I think this stakeholder group has amplified the opposition to the point where they're drowning out the other 10,000 voices. And so, you know, when I was talking with Michael Gorman and Will the other day, it seems like getting, at this point, no more meetings where they can keep saying no. I just think that's a mistake. And I would suggest that at this point, we come up with the steps that we agree with and how to go forward, and we go forward, and we don't give them any more voice. I mean, I don't see that the meeting, I'm glad you thought it went well. I thought it was limp and didn't really go anywhere. And you guys were the only ones who had anything in your report. You know, the report on IGAs was not a report. And the other guy tried really hard. He was supposed to have, you know, video enhancement, and he didn't, which was another reason not to have them in Marble again. But I just don't see that any more meetings are going to get you guys anywhere. I think it's time to write something and then, you know, bring it forward. And without the senators, I don't know. But until we get beyond listening to these 2 people, I don't see progress happening, and I see more attrition from lack of interest. I mean, if we had a continuing way to remind people that this is happening, that would be one thing. But I don't know. I was discouraged also.
This feels like it's part of a reevaluation. I want to go right to Steve, and then we'll give you a chance to say something. Then we got to wrap it up.
Yep.
Steve.
Okay, thank you, Greg. I'm really supportive of EcoFlight. Has been a really good partner in the Thompson Divide fight and in the Wild and Scenic fight, and I support, you know, this funding going forward. Looking realistically at the prospects for the next 4 years of getting anything through Congress, I think a traditional wild and scenic designation probably is, you know, dead at the beginning. It's not going to go anywhere unless there is some sort of a development component of the proposal. And so I have mentioned before, and nobody ever thought it was a good idea, but I mentioned it as an example of how a development on the Crystal River might attract the next administration to actually support the proposal. And my idea was to do a run-of-the-river hydro project just above the Sweet Jessup Ditch headgate. So it would be generating electricity using Crystal River water. It would help protect water rights from any future diversions upstream, like a transbasin diversion over to the Gunnison River or something. It would produce some electricity. It falls right at the bottom of the whole wild and scenic and recreational stretch of the river. And it would be a development using a natural resource that I think could be attractive to the Republican administration and then, the next administration. So just tossing out that kind of idea, maybe that's not the project that would carry the day with them, but just to stimulate some thinking. I really hope we don't have to fight the Thompson Divide withdrawal thing all over again, because very likely that's going to come back and we're going to be fighting that again in the new administration. So EcoFlight might be flying people over Thompson Divide again. I hope not, but that's a possibility. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, I'm going to go take it back to Lisa and Lisa,
yeah,
and let's
just
get through this.
Real quickly, I think, I do think there does need to be kind of a reconvening, kind of like we had 2 years ago, of some folks to do some sitting down of the folks who are really pro wild and scenic and trying to do some reevaluation instead of maybe just going business as usual. I mean, and I think that's, definitely a possibility, because I do think that, I think Francie did definitely hit on something. The folks who were really the real pro wild and scenic folks, the ones that were really trying to push for wild and scenic, got pulled into the stakeholder process, and their voices definitely got muted because they were trying to really be neutral voices, and just like Leah, and she's done a beautiful job at what she's been doing. But that did change all of the dynamics, as far as we kind of pulled most of the people who are the biggest voices that were pro wild and scenic kind of out of the fray, and so it left kind of the opposition voices, obviously amplified. So yeah, I think we do need some reevaluation, and maybe that might be an idea that we can all get together and kind of have another sit down. And we especially need to do that, I think, because of November 5th, right?
Thank you. I really appreciate what Bill Fales said. It's nice to have the Thompson Divide 20-year struggle as an example, but that's either reason for optimism or pessimism. I'm not sure which. I just want to do a poll of the board. Do we want to? I want to keep us moving because I know how far behind we are. Do we need to do a thumbs up or anything on budget or?
No, unless there were concerns or anything. We're all good on the budget. We have the money appropriated already.
Appropriated dollars.
Patty was in favor.
Yeah, I just think I just
I'd be
want
in
to make sure we
favor.
monitor the use and moving it forward. And I think the broader discussion will be at our joint meeting when we can really get into the nitty-gritty of
Do we have
where we're gonna go.
another one? I think Steve was, but I want to hear from you too.
Yeah, I'm in favor. Can we reappropriate the funds for Thompson Divide if it becomes necessary? Does it have to be on the Crystal?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Rivers.
We'll get to that when we.
Well,
yeah,
I don't think that'll happen in the
When we get to
next
it.
year, but we could always.
we could.
if we had to. Okay, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Like I
think
said,
we're good.
This is what they're good at, and I think
Right.
it's totally appropriate.
Yeah, you guys are such pros. I want to make sure you're still going at it.
Well, thank you. And I would just add, there were 2 wild and scenic bills introduced under the last Trump administration, one for East Rosebud in Montana and
right.
one for Green River in Utah. And we do have a strategy, and we so welcome input and ideas that you have for strategy. And like I said, we are planning to do something a little bit different in January. We have ideas, but any input we could get before kind of between now and January would be super helpful.
And which way did those 2 states vote in this last election? Just a food for thought.
Hey, thank you. All right,
Thank you so
Nice
much.
to meet you. Nice to meet you both. Thank you.
we're gonna keep it going. Come on down. Thanks for your patience. We're behind.
For these 2 weeks.
I'm usually not so far behind, but we've had a busy day.
Well, then on wildfire, yes.
So I told you.
Just a yes, let's just say yes.
Thanks for coming already.
Keep it going.
We'll keep it going.
Mike, you're in charge.
Putting you in charge? No, you're not. You can't be in charge yet. You haven't been sworn in.
I say I got sworn in on, when did she get sworn in?
That's okay.
Raise your hand and you stay.
That's it. Yeah, there's no, I was like, waiting, where's the
No,
button?
there's no Bible.
There's no,
Not yet.
There's a book for her, I'd be throwing it at her. Okay, I'm gonna run the meeting since Greg stepped out of the room and these two are talking. Hi, it's so nice to see you.
Thanks. I think they're just some trouble shooting some tech.
Yep, always, right?
Every single, exactly.
That's ready. That's great.
Okay,
Thanks.
That's my first,
Please.
so.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, so we've got, today,
you just keep going, those two are gonna
blah,
chit
blah,
chat,
blah.
we're gonna
Okay,
move
that's
on.
awesome. All right, so we're very excited actually to have Angie Devlin here. She's the executive director of the Roaring Fork Wildfire Collaborative. And I don't know, she can maybe talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure, but I'm just gonna let her just go because you guys are running behind.
We know her.
And you know her, I'm sure. Okay, great. Okay, well, for the public, this is who she is then. Yes, and she's here to talk about her grant application to help get the Wildfire Ready Action Plan going. Yep.
I'm going to get you all back on time, so I'll be brief. You've seen a lot of me lately. I think you're probably well familiar with the Wildfire Collaborative.
Okay.
Essentially, we work throughout the entire watershed, of which Pitkin is kind of the largest county, but we work in 4 counties. And we work to better understand what our highest areas of risk are throughout the watershed, including not just the risk of wildfire, but also all the things that can happen after a wildfire comes, which can include floods and mudslides and debris flows and water contamination. This is a picture of the state's post-fire susceptibility assessment. Everything in red is the highest risk, and you can see, if you look right in our area, we are one of those bright red areas, and here's a zoomed in portion. What this means is that when a wildfire returns to our area, we are not set up to be prepared for all of the things that happen after that. And if you think about the fire in the Glenwood Canyon, the fire came through, that was devastating, and then after that, we dealt with the after effects of mudslides and debris flows, and we'll probably deal with those for decades to come. We know our risk is really high, and yet we still don't understand what our most critical vulnerabilities are after a fire. We have some really great tools. The U.S. Forest Service recently put out their PODS map, the potential operational delineations, which basically helps us utilize all of the natural features of this landscape to create more effective fire breaks to protect communities. But we're not using a data-informed approach to target mitigation or preventative work. Also, the mitigation work that we've done has been heavy in forest thinning, which is really important in this area, but slim in preventing post-fire hazards. So I applied for a Wildfire Ready Watersheds grant, which does exactly this. It helps understand the susceptibility of our watersheds to post-wildfire impacts, and then it opens the doors to funding to help us plan for those things before a wildfire comes back. We received $224,000 in cash, plus $150,000 in technical assistance from the state. We've got the $28,000 in-kind match shored up, and we came to the Pitkin Healthy Rivers to help support that last piece, that $28,000 cash match. In the time between I met with Lisa and now, we're actually going to write for about $85,000 more of funding in order to incorporate 2 really important hucks that are a little bit outside of our watershed, but that aren't in anyone else's zone of caring. So we're going to try to absorb those. So this $28,000 is about 6% of the entire money that we'll bring in for this grant.
So you don't need any more funds if you increase to 85,000 or whatever?
No.
No, you won't
That's
need
a
any
great
more
question.
matching, just to prepare us for,
Nope, you're good. I won't come back to you for this project at
just
least.
wanted to get a head start.
I'll save my request for other projects. We have a funder who is ready to support the match for that addition. We are well underway in this. We've had that kickoff meeting. We've put out an RFP for an engineering firm to help us do most of the funds that we receive from this actually just go straight to an engineer who will do that really intensive mapping. We've selected Right Water. They'll be an incredible partner in this. They know the area really well. They're deeply invested. And so we hope to have the full analysis done at the latest by summer of 2026, ideally a little bit earlier. When I talked to the Healthy Rivers team, we felt like this was really in line with the River Board's priorities. So out of this, we will develop a comprehensive plan to protect water quality and quantity before and after wildfires. We're mitigating risk that could do serious damage to reduce the availability and quantity of water. And one of the things that I talk often about is that there's a very real scenario where we could have sorry, I get so distracted hearing myself in my ear, where we could have a wildfire that comes back to the valley. Our fire districts are successful. They save all the lives, they save all the buildings, and yet the ash from that wildfire contaminates a lot of these kind of sole source streams and makes a place like Snowmass Village uninhabitable because there's no available drinking water. This effort is inherently collaborative, and in doing so, will protect not just ecological health, but recreational opportunities, wildlife and riparian habitats. We're keeping water in the watershed, which is really important. And finally, oops. The end result of this plan will open the door to significant additional funding for then us to kind of tick through the action steps that it's going to recommend. There's nothing in the valley that has this. We have these kind of smaller scale plans, but nothing in a watershed scale. It's really important to connect those dots. Also, we have to have this plan in place in order to access that additional funding. We're going to do a bunch of community outreach to raise awareness and get a lot of different people involved, from on the small scale, kind of those small scale water owners that are sometimes HOAs. The River Conservancy is a key partner, to the largest scale of kind of counties and towns. And we feel like this is a really justified public investment. 6% of the funding will not just help us carry out this plan, but open the door to millions of dollars to help us really make this place safer. That's it.
Great. Wow, that was quick.
Don't
Thank you.
go.
Francis?
I'll stick around.
Can you give us an example of a project that might come out of this planning?
Yeah, that's a great question. A couple. So one could be, bolstering a hillside that we know is a likely flood area.
But how? How do you bolster a hillside?
Ooh, that's outside of my wheelhouse.
Are we talking about infrastructure, like cinder block wall, like across from, where's the hot springs, Penny Hot Springs, like that kind of thing?
Dear, oh dear.
Just bank stabilization.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what would boots on the ground look like?
I think
What would
it
happen?
could look
Punt
like
that
a
one to
huge
Jeffrey.
range of things. It could be work in the landscape that prevents those landslides. It could be bolstering our water systems that, to make them more effective at filtering out ash.
But what does that mean, bolstering our water systems? You mean?
Making them more robust.
Infrastructure upgrades.
Okay.
Or re-veg and bruise nets, and rather than massive retaining walls.
Yeah.
Yeah?
This
Wouldn't
grant
that work?
will not do any of that. It's not.
No, I understand.
implementation
It's all
funding.
about studying and planning. But, like I think about you were talking about the Grizzly Fire, and I think I can't imagine what would have prevented those unbelievable rock slides. I mean, they were just, a retaining wall would have just come with them,
It could be diversions, spaces for the water to flow and go, which CDOT has installed some of those up on that hillside. You're asking good questions. I don't have the right answers for you, but
Glenwood Canyon's a pretty extreme example.
yeah.
Glenwood Canyon, what?
Glenwood Canyon's an extreme example of what you probably wouldn't be able to deal with.
No, but it's where we live. It's here.
And I think a lot of our towns are taking on projects like this. I'm thinking of the town of Basalt did a project up at the Bassburg townhomes, which was incredibly timed. I think they completed the project right before the fire came, and then right when the fire ended, the flooding came, and I think it was a culvert or a diversion system that they developed. It was effective. It didn't flood those townhomes. So it could be small scale things like that, but things that our towns they're probably on their checklist, and this will help us give them money to carry those things out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This was great. Great presentation. I'm supportive, certainly.
Yeah, I think it's something that we need to get done the sooner the better. Then we can start doing the work.
In a changing landscape with fire danger, flood potential, huge storms, it's like this is what has to be done. And it probably didn't have to be done before, but now it does. So, great. Thanks.
We did get an email from Valerie McDonald, too, our former emergency management crew, and she was very excited and thought it was awesome work that we were supporting it and supporting the
She's been
Valley.
talking
Great.
about
Thanks
it
for that.
years.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you. Thanks, Angie.
Okay, is everyone all right? Can we keep flying? We're only 3 minutes behind now. Somehow we picked
See
it
what
up.
happens when you leave the room?
I know, you guys got something done.
Use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Yep. Yeah, if you need to go to the bathroom, take a
I'm
break,
ready
whatever,
we need to keep.
and then let me know.
Are you
But
leaving us?
No.
Just taking a break.
Yeah, you can go. You can.
Senatorial
Okay,
5.
next victims.
Connie's got me.
The usual suspects.
Did you just call us the usual suspects? Studies.
He's been
Your favorite.
I keep trying to come up with new, ways of describing our victims.
Got a plan
Perpetrators.
first, Nancy.
Yes. Victims is a strong
Appellants,
diverters. That was the keyword.
diverters.
The diverter syndrome.
What were you calling the yoga people? The rebellion or the?
Yeah.
The who?
Well, I called them the revolting.
The revolting.
That's not what I meant.
Revolters. Revolters.
And who were
That's
you?
not what I meant.
Who were you speaking
There
about?
was a revolution of sorts when I suggested we might not do yoga anymore.
Oh,
'cause
people
we-
A mutiny. It was a mutiny. It was
Oh, I
threatened.
love that.
The road and bridge guys love. Do
That's
they still
awesome.
love it?
Believe me, I make a point of it every manager chat when our yoga sessions are now. 'Cause-
You gotta mention.
John,
it.
yes.
That's
John,
really cool.
Is that a
I'm not
line
going to
item in our
believe you.
budget? Should
I
we
like
keep
that.
it in there?
It's in the wellness category.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we
Alright.
can afford to do yoga next year. I'll
Guys,
just
you
say
just
that.
have to jump in and
I
tell
know
them
we're
moving
gonna. I had told Connie that we're trying to shorten our timeline, and that we're still running behind. So
Okay, yeah, so we'll jump in. Go ahead, Connie.
excuse our brevity.
I love that about yoga. It's so
On
great.
your meeting schedule,
Oh, my.
thank you. On your meeting schedule, it says budget wrap-up, but really the main item that we have to wrap up, aside from the ambulance presentation, which will follow, the only other wrap-up item was the new housing property tax fund. So Ashley is here to present that, and we have a tentative budget to show you, and so I'll let Ashley kick it off.
Great. Good afternoon. Ashley Pearl, Housing and Resiliency Director. It's exciting because we have a property tax for the next 20 years, starting in 2025, that will fund housing, as the board is aware. So in 2025, it's estimated that'll bring in about $8.5 million. And as the board knows, in the ballot language, we had 6 bullet points on how that money can be used. So we've been trying to think about what 2025 will bring and what the opportunities will be, and really trying to set up the board to be able to act on any opportunities as they come up. I can't say that I have a crystal ball and that I have 100% certainty, not even close, on what's coming in 2025. So the budget that we're presenting to you today is buckets. It's kind of broad estimates on what we think could come up. And all we want to do is make sure that some amount of appropriation gets included in the 2025 budget so that as opportunities come up, you all can act quickly on things, and so that we don't miss any opportunities. So what we're hoping to do is, if the board approves it, to have some appropriations in 2025, and then in Q1 of next year, really sit down in either some sort of retreat setting or much longer work session and really think through not just the 2025 plan, but the 5-year plan. And by then we will have been able to meet with all of our partners. We'll know more about the housing trust. We'll have a bit more of data and knowledge about the landscape and what our opportunities are going to be in the next 5 years. And then I think the board can really craft more of a 5-year plan. What's in front of you right now is just a 2025 appropriation. There's 4 buckets, and I guess we can pull it up and I'll kind of walk through how we came to this idea. So when you all had your many, many work sessions and meetings on what you all wanted the property tax to go to, we were very clear we wanted it to go towards partnerships. That was a term the board used extensively in setting this up. You also talked a lot about making sure that it is a value add, that it brings new housing programming to the community, that it doesn't just cover existing programming or a continuation of existing programming.
I don't understand what that means.
Yeah, so like right now, the main role that the county plays in housing is providing housing for our employees. So we own 20 units from here to Elgibel, and we rent them out to our employees. We also have some amount of money to support our employees in buying homes. That's the deed restriction program or the down payment assistance program. Outside of that, we don't have any ongoing programs for our employees or even for the community. Hi, Jeffrey. It's nice to see you. And so really looking at how this new property tax allows us to play a much larger role in the community and trying to keep the ongoing programs mainly for our employees in the general fund while freeing up this new money to support the county showing up in a new way in the community and housing. Does that resonate at all?
So is that necessarily going to happen, that it's restricted to not supporting our current programs?
It is not restricted to that.
Okay.
And that's what we wanted to talk about today. What is proposed to you all today is focused on keeping anything that's ongoing or existing in the general fund for 2025 and reserving the new money in 2025 for new programming opportunities. I think over time, obviously, this money is at the discretion of the board. And so I think there could be plenty of opportunities as we realize what really is available out there to reconsider the use of it for ongoing or internal housing programs. Yeah, go for it.
Just regarding partnerships, now that we've seemed to have some optimism regarding having funding to play with the partners, are you casting about for partners, or are people approaching you? Do you have a pretty good idea of the landscape, who's out there and what they're up to?
We've started to get an idea of the landscape. I can't say we have a pretty good idea yet. When we put the ballot language together, we had some partners in mind. I mean, we knew that Snowmass is looking to develop their draw site. They also had a ballot measure, so we're kind of waiting to see how that plays out. We know that the school district really wants to lean into housing. We know some of the other large employers in town are interested in partnerships. Those have yet to really take shape. So that's what I'm hoping to do over the next couple months, so that when we come back to you in Q1 of next year, we can really lay out those partnerships in more detail. The other really big thing that we've talked about is starting a new 501c3 housing trust, which we are hopefully bringing on a consultant to really help us understand what that means and what the timeline would be, and then which type of partnerships we could run through it. And then also Phillips. You know, for a long time we've kind of toyed with Phillips as a partnership project, but we haven't put too much skeleton around what that partnership model would look like. So this is all work that I think staff would love to do over the next couple months, come to you in early 2025. John's tossed out the idea of like a retreat or a longer work session and give more info on some of these things. But we have like a bullet list right now, but I can't say we have a lot of detail underneath them.
I was just wondering if Sherry Sanzone and Wayne Stryker are on that list somewhere. I think they're circling.
Okay. Send them. Feel free to send any circling folks our way.
So this list includes no specific partnerships at this point. It is an appropriation, so that as we cultivate those opportunities or identify those opportunities, that the board can act quickly, giving administrative direction to partner and to begin to execute partnerships.
So we know we've got a fund that isn't spoken for. If somebody emerges, we can talk to them, which is great to know. Francie and then Steve.
I just wanted to go back to my question about, so I am a little concerned that if we're saying that our ongoing programs come out of the general fund, this board is pretty protective of its general fund. So I'm worried that if an opportunity comes up to buy a house that we could put in our deed restriction program or something, that it might not happen because it's not in the housing fund. So that's what, I just wondering about the flexibility there.
So you absolutely, as a board, have flexibility to appropriate in those ways. We did not want to present an initial recommendation that looked like we were offsetting expenditures that we had already planned in the general fund. But Francie, if this board wanted to, expand funding or use the housing funding as long as it's related to the purposes identified in the ballot, you absolutely have the option to do that. And developing our recommendations, we wanted to be really cautious about what we were offsetting from expenditures that we had originally planned in the general fund, so that these funds were being purposed for things we wouldn't otherwise be doing.
Okay, thank you.
Right, thanks for that. Kelly?
I think Steve was first, but I guess I would just comment, I think of it similarly to how we divided up our contribution for the Stotts Mill childcare. We took some of it from the ARPA funds because those were more community serving, and then we took some of it from our HR benefit type of fund from the general fund because it would serve us directly. That's a little bit how I think about what you're talking about.
Right. Steve, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Let me jump to Steve and then I'll get back to you.
So several partnerships or projects that I think we want to make sure that they are on the list of possibilities. One would be the Eagle County tree farm thing in Elgeville. I think we should move ahead as quickly as possible with them on a project there. I would work with the Hunter Longhouse, Sherry Sansone group on trying to do something with our foundation of our old hospital there at Independence Place. I think we could do 3 or 4 units on top of the old hospital foundation very easily, and we could tie it in with their redevelopment of Hunter Longhouse. And a third project would be in the Aspen Village area where the town of Snowmass Village has land for affordable housing. There's a really developable land that I think the HOA has where they could build 8 houses on it on real flat ground right next to the mobile home part of the park. So there's real good possibilities there, and I would have all 3 of those as not quite shovel ready, but ones that something could develop really quickly on doing a project.
Thanks, Steve. John, did you want to comment, or are we going back to you guys?
The one comment I had for Francie is that we also do have the housing impact fees in a separate fund. So that is also available. It's more restrictive in how we use it, but should an employee unit come available, there's also that as an option.
Yeah, thanks for that, Connie.
Yep, that's what I was going to add. So we actually have 3 funds that you all have seen in budget season: the general fund, the housing impact fee fund, and now we're introducing a new fund. This one being the most versatile on how you use it, housing impact fee being the most restrictive, general fund falling somewhere in between. So that's the approach we took to build this budget. So as you can see, we have our revenues are based on valuations that we expect to come in. And then in the expenditures category, the first one is salaries and wages. Per our conversation we just had right now, that's not the full cost of all housing staff showing up there. It's partial costs of housing staff because housing staff will still continue to work in our existing program areas. So it's the portion of staff that we anticipate will work on building new programs, new partnerships, those sorts of things. So that kind of split is represented in the split of salaries and wages. And then acquisitions, partnerships, reducing homelessness impacts, and capital maintenance, those are the words we used in the ballot language. So for now, kind of keeping those buckets that we set out, I think in future conversations we can certainly get more detailed in these buckets, but wanted to at least use the ballot language as our first guide. So Acquisitions is if a property comes up or if a unit comes up that we're looking for community use. That's kind of where we're thinking that programs like that might fit into there. So for right now, we've put a placeholder of $2 million for 2025. Partnerships is a rather large bucket. So included in there is any partnership that the board might want to pursue with the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition for the Good Deeds program. Any partnership the board wants to pursue for Phillips Mobile Home Park and building out Phillips and the infrastructure involved there. And then also anything having to do with the 501c3 Housing Trust. So we've talked a lot about if we do partner with any of these folks that Steve just mentioned or any others, running it through that trust model. So that's the biggest bucket there, partnerships. Again, we talked so much. I heard from you all that really this property tax was to allow us to sit at the table, not for us to go out on our own, but for us to be in partnership with each other or with others. So that's why partnerships is such a big bucket. Reducing homelessness impacts, we have $400,000 right there. In 2025, we're hoping that we're anticipating that our strategic planning consultants for homelessness, they're called SHG advisors, will come out with strategic plan recommendations for the county to pursue and hopefully eliminate homelessness in our county. We've put a placeholder of $400,000 there to follow up on any of those recommendations that are going to come out. The reason it's not a huge amount of money is that strategic plan won't be done till mid-year, so we'll only have 5 or so months to act on anything. And again, these are all kind of placeholder appropriations, so if an opportunity comes up that's much larger, the board has the ability to act on that. And then the last one is capital maintenance. Right now, that $200,000 is the request from APSHA for their repair and maintenance grant program. So APSHA requested their operating account or their operating budget for this year, and then they requested a one-time $200,000 contribution from the county. So we took that out of the general fund and put it into here because that seemed to match the ballot language. Connie would have to tell you what other expenditures are.
Yeah, the other expenditures are the treasurer's fees that go along with the property tax.
The other piece I want to call out here is the transfer to the general fund for Habitat for Humanity's L3 project. Patty has asked for that, so we wanted to put it in. The board can decide to keep it or not. So that's the $450,000 grant contribution from Picken County to Habitat for the L3 condominiumized project that they're doing, which did come out of, follow me here, the board set aside a $5 million chunk from the general fund for housing. We pulled some expenditures out of there, so it's down to $4 million. And one of those was the $450,000 for L3. So this is kind of refunding it. And then you can see there's a transfer from the general fund of the $4 million that's remaining. That's honestly just on a staff side. Right now, it would be great if we were only pulling from 3 different funds and not 4 different funds. So instead of having regular general fund, housing specific general fund, housing impact fee, and now this new fund, we'd love to pull that housing specific general fund into this fund because they have the same uses. And it seems like the board had intended to use those funds in this same way as we're intending to use the property tax. So that's just a clear out on our end.
Thank you, Patty.
And I appreciate the $450,000 that we used for Habitat. So now we're putting it back into the housing general fund money we allotted and then moving it back into this new fund. Yes.
A little,
yes. So thank you for making me feel good.
But
even though it's all coming back around again, but it's still coming back around. And I think that was important for us to support the Habitat issue based on, I think we need to just show the community we were truly interested in and wanting to do partnerships.
And that $4 million transfer, originally we had that going into the Housing Impact Fee Fund because that was where the board was going to do its major projects, whether buying units or working on a partnership. But now that there is the new property tax, we felt it might be better to move it into this new fund where the uses could be broader and it could go towards those partnerships or whatever else the board may want to develop.
So I think it's a great idea.
Great.
So this is, again, what we put together right here at the end of budget season with the hope that, or with the thought that if the board wants to appropriate some dollars in 2025, that can set you all up to move fairly quickly on opportunities that come. But knowing that we have quite a bit of work to do in Q1 of 2025 to build out the 5-year plan, understand which partnerships we actually want to pursue, and add a lot more details around this. But this felt like at least setting us up so if something comes our way, we can act on it. So I'm happy to answer other questions or
I'm good.
go from there.
Yay! I'm good too.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a very subdued, well, we're going to have $8.5 million. It's really good news.
I love it though. The first thing is the partnerships is 9 million.
Nothing else
We're
about it.
already like behind.
On my election. I said my election.
Great.
of the
Thank you
airport
for
were
that.
also
Oh,
talking
Steve,
about-
go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, actually, I was alarmed when I saw in the out years, not putting any money towards the partnerships and building up a war chest of $34 million by 2029, if I can read that clearly. But I understand where you're going, and I think we could easily put in a figure for those partnerships every one of those years of, whatever, 6 million or 7 million or some figure could be put in there, but I like the way you're framing that to do a work, have a retreat and fill in the details on that, what partnerships you're doing. But it does look odd that we're like building up this war chest, we're taking the taxpayers' money and then not spending it. And I think we need to spend it as fast as possible because the housing needs are so pressing. And the more we can spend upfront, the better off we'll be in the long run.
Prudently.
Personally.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, anything else? That's it?
No, but I think help
Short
is
and
on
sweet.
the way. I
Thank
thought
you.
I saw
Well done.
Gabe sneaking around out
Congratulations to
there.
the board. I think
Well, I
we've
thank
all
you.
worked really
Yeah,
hard on
all
this.
to
and
all
it's
of you
exciting
as
to be
well
moving
for
forward.
driving the bus. Great.
Yay.
Okay. Where are we now? We are, ambulance would be up next to, we're so far
Got
ahead of
Gabe
schedule
coming
now.
in
We're
the
so
door.
far ahead.
Let's do some other things.
What else can we do in the meantime?
Ashley, would you see
More
if
open
Gabe's standing
discussion,
out there?
future agendas.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's do a future agenda, Steve or John, if you've got more open discussion, or anyone else does.
You
We
already
can do that,
did.
and then
I
future
already printed
agendas.
it. I followed your instructions. Print this out, Patty, and have it.
Well, Gabe is here if you want to stay.
Oh,
Good.
Gabe's here. Hey, let's do
Gabe.
this.
I
Come on
just
down.
said that. I just said it 5 times that he was
Oh.
walking in the door.
September 3rd.
So we'll just pivot back to Gabe,
Hi, Gabe.
just in
I
time.
the
No
ambulance guy's
waiting.
Still getting around.
Thank you.
We caught up just in time to be ahead, and now you're here on perfect timing. Timing's everything.
Right? I try.
Okay.
Dave will be unable to make it. He normally shows up for this, Dave Wrestler, so, just due to the timing of it.
I thought you said Gabe. Like, wait, is there another Gabe? No, okay. Dave
My
Wrestler.
other personality
Yeah.
Will Daisy be
Which one of you is here?
will most likely not.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So just be us.
All right.
So we are here to present the proposed 2025 ambulance district budget. And the county's ambulance fund collects a property tax. Just a couple of years ago, in November 2022, voters approved an increase in that mill levy up to 1.1 mills. And with that funding, the county pays for the ambulance building, for the capital ambulance purchases and vehicles, and then any capital equipment. So those are the main items that the county pays for, and then we contract with Aspen Valley Hospital for the provision of ambulance services. So Gabe is an employee of Aspen Valley Hospital, as are all of the rest of the ambulance staff, and it's really a great partnership. So I'm going to share the 5-year plan. I've passed out a new version to you. We had some last-minute changes, which actually are changes that are very positive. And so different from what was shown in your memo, we are proposing going with a 0.2 mill levy credit, which is the same as we did last year. When the new property tax was approved, our commitment to the voters was that we would not be taking more than what was needed for the services and for the capital purchases, knowing, though, that we also need to maintain fund balance adequate enough to last into the future, as over the course of time, 10, 15 years, costs will probably be going up more than the property tax could. But that being said, we did take a credit against the mill levy last year and propose taking that same credit this year. That would bring in about $4.2 million into the fund. Looking at the 5-year plan, the largest expenditure cost in that plan is for our payment to Aspen Valley Hospital, which is proposed at just over $2 million. And we'll look at the budget from Aspen Valley Hospital in just a minute as Gabe talks about their services. We have property services included, which are utilities and custodial for the building, as well as any repair and maintenance contracts. They have included a fence around an area outside the building. So any number of costs that relate to the building are included there. Under the machinery and equipment, we have power cots for new ambulances included there, as well as radios. The radios are being cycled out for all of the ambulance personnel with the new radios, and you have seen that in the funds for a number of other county departments. Then under the vehicles and ambulances line item, you notice quite a large amount. That's actually 4 ambulances. Normally, we replace 1 ambulance every 2 years, and I believe it's 4 ambulances total, so that over the course of 8 years, we would have cycled through replacing each ambulance. However, due to a backlog and supply chain delays, it is taking even up to 3 years almost to be able to get an ambulance from the time it's ordered. So this funding in 2025 includes 2 ambulances that have been back ordered, and then also starting to place future orders so that future ambulances can arrive hopefully in a little more timely fashion, so they won't be so far behind in replacing the ambulances. We have transfer to the debt service fund for the debt service payments on the ambulance building, and then leaving the fund with adequate fund balance. So that's the 5-year plan.
Can I ask you just quickly, just about that $500,000, roughly a little bit more for other expenditures?
Yes.
Hit that if you would.
That includes the treasurer's fees, it includes a contingency, and it includes a little bit of overhead.
Okay, great. Other comments, questions? I don't see any. Okay.
So I will turn it over to Gabe to talk about the ambulance services and what are included. And we have the hospital's budget pulled up here.
Perfect. Well, first off, thank you for having me here today. Looking at the budget for the county, you'll notice that the payment to AVH, and that's always one that I like to go over. AVH is the managing partner with the ambulance district, and it allows us to utilize the clinical aspects of AVH. And so when we look at the operational side and what that payment really encompasses, it really is the true operation of the ambulance district itself. So you'll notice in here in this budget that you have in front of you, This goes to essentially the entire operations of the service. So I'll just kind of run through very quickly what you have in front of you here. The first off for us is revenue, and the first line you'll notice is patient revenue. And that is for those patients that we are actually transporting by ambulance, we charge a fee to, right? That allows us to charge insurance, it allows us to charge for that service itself. Along with revenue in that area, you'll see special events and some of the community classes that we have. Special events for us are obviously very important. It's a good amount right there. That encompasses some of our larger events, X Games, Food and Wine, some of those things. So that is a small amount of revenue for us in there. So you'll notice our total revenue line. Now the next one down is one that I always want to explain a little bit, and that is revenue deductions. And you notice that's a pretty big number, for sure. But what that is as we bill insurance, insurance doesn't actually pay us the amount that we bill them. This is healthcare finance is a little bit different than most other services, and that if we bill $1, we don't necessarily get $1. So those deductions are the agreements that we have with our commercial payers, with our private payers, but then it also includes Medicare and Medicaid. Which obviously is an interesting service, but Medicare and Medicaid pay us a smaller amount than the others. We typically, I think the number I saw this year is we're going to get about 24% for our Medicare. So 24% or 24 cents on every dollar that we bill is what we'll receive for Medicare. So those numbers are a little low. Obviously, Medicare is a good service, and we want to continue that. We want to assure that we take care of our population that is on Medicare. But it's really important that we have something to support us, even though we're not getting the amount that we're billing. So that's what those deductions are.
If I could,
Yes,
regarding the deduction for insurance, if an insurance company pays, what percentage do they typically pay on a bill?
It's really interesting. So it really depends on the insurance company, right, and the agreements that we have with them. It's based on geographic location. It's based on, in many cases, it's based on income levels, things like that, and what the benefit is to them. So it varies, and I think that's why it's so very difficult to, if somebody says, what's my bill going to be, I honestly can't tell them until we get all of the paperwork in. So it's very difficult to do so. But we see anywhere, most of our private payers, we can see up to 75%. I will tell you, none of them pay 100%. Right, but I think generally we see up to 75%. Most are around the 60% area. Medicare and Medicaid are by far our lowest in that 25% range. So we do have to make that up.
Great.
For sure. And as you know, with our community, our Medicare numbers are rising, without a doubt. So that's those deductions. We make up for that, obviously, with the mill levy, which helps us and our community supporting that. Expenses, you'll notice, are generally roughly through here flat. The only big increase that you'll notice is those salaries. And as we talked about a few years ago when we built our strategic plan, and as we're moving forward, that is actually part of our strategic plan to change our structure a little bit as we grow and as we take on more duties. Those duties are still within the ambulance realm, but we're starting to do a little bit more work in the backcountry, which takes, or the side country, I guess would be a better way to put it. We're taking our ambulances out of service for a little bit longer to help those that are injured in those side areas. So doing a great job in partnership with Aspen Fire and Mountain Rescue, but we're noticing that our time on task is what we call it, how long an ambulance is used for each call, adds up. So that just changes our structure, but that is a planned structural change. We knew this was coming, and certainly had planned for that in a budget mentality as well. But you'll notice most everything else in there is fairly flat. We do feel like the costs of equipment and supplies will go up in this next year, certainly, but we're pretty comfortable with where we're at right now. So overall, there's our net and loss from operations. Mill levy, we've set, and we'll come out to a zero there. So really comfortable with where we're at right now. I will tell you that as a service, we are extremely efficient. We have the most, I say it every time I get up here, but we really do have amazing staff that this community should be, very, very proud of. Our services remain top notch. We're able to meet the community's needs for what they're asking us. So very proud of that. Any questions I can answer? I know it was a quick run through, but.
Questions? Fringe benefits.
Great job. Thank you.
What are the fringe benefits?
Say that again?
Fringe benefits.
Can we lower that number? Can you guys work on that? Yeah, fringe benefits for sure, just our benefits for staff, retirement and health insurance and whatnot. And just like everyone, the health insurance benefits and whatnot continue to rise at a pretty good clip. But we do have the advantage of joining in the fringe benefits with the rest of the hospital, so we do have a fairly large group that we can that we are supported by. So there's that partnership again with the hospital and how well that's worked over the years. It's a little bit of an odd relationship at times, but certainly one that works out exceptionally well.
Great, thank you. Other comments, questions? Looks good to me.
Looks good to me.
Very clear presentation. Love the mill levy credit. People will be happy to hear that.
That's how we wrote the ballot language.
You got it. Yep. Always happy to support that. We're always going to be a very good steward of the taxpayer dollar, and I'm happy that we're able to do that when we can.
I think that the community is always happy to know we're not taking every penny we could.
I agree.
Thank you.
I'm good.
All right.
Gabe,
Well,
it's good to
that
see
was
you.
it worth coming in? I don't even know. That would take.
It's always great to
It's
see
always
you.
worth seeing him.
Good to see you, Gabe.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Take care.
Thanks
Hopefully
a
you
lot,
guys
Gabe.
get a little breather before winter starts.
Boy, I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got your snow tires on?
We do.
All right.
All right,
So-
thank you.
Have
So
a great
board-
rest of your day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thanks, Kate.
So board, that was the last of our budget presentations.
way.
Wow,
We
no
have
way.
been through each and every fund and department. So we will be back on December 4th for first reading of the budget resolutions and mill levy certification. There will be some changes from what was presented to you because of decisions that were made along the way, so we'll give a recap of some of that, and most recently, the change in the pool for wage increases, which will change many of the funds just a little bit. So we'll bring that back on the 4th.
Did we resolve our negotiating over FTE requests?
So everything
Yeah.
remained pretty much the same as the recommendation, with the exception of moving 2 different positions into a
To
pending
pending,
category. And that was a road and bridge heavy equipment operator and a sheriff's patrol deputy.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you. All right. How did it seem like it went faster this year, or more smoothly,
Were you sitting
or
on
do I
this?
just have a terrible memory?
Well, Greg, I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's credit to the work that Connie's done to really prepare really thorough and excellent documents and to keep all of us on track. And you and your team and Liz, I used to be much more deeply involved in the budget, and this group, I still am. I still know what's going on, but don't need to work on it nearly as much because
And
this
that's why
group
it's going
is-
faster.
and it's probably better too, yeah. But I just really want to recognize the fantastic work. It is a tremendous amount of prep that starts June, we start this process.
January.
To get to this, to get to this point. So, thank you.
I do have a thought, a suggestion. I like it, really appreciate it when staff from departments has the opportunity to come and tell us their plans, their successes, what they've accomplished. But I find it when we combine it with the budget, sometimes more time is spent on that rather than really discussing numbers and plans for financing projects, et cetera. Plus, to be really honest, it makes for some really long days for us to be sitting in this one space for 5 to 6 hours at a time. So maybe at the first of the year, maybe a retreat, another one of my favorites. We can talk about maybe how we can look at letting staff come in throughout the year and share with us all the great stuff that they do and any obstacles they see or any help they need or whatever, and let us have a chance to let them present. I'm just a thought that maybe the board would like to talk about for next year's budget
Yeah.
or
and
the
we've-
year after.
And we've had some thoughts about that, of whether the board needs to hear from every department, and can we just simply have the ones that have changes? If there are no changes, they don't present during the budget process.
Or if they want to present it another time of the year, I like hearing, and I like when they can come in and we see faces. I think that's really important trying to bring the continuity of our family and our team back together as a whole.
So I think it's a good discussion that we can have sometime during the beginning of the year and see if we can make some changes going forward.
I want to reiterate what John said, and thank you so much for your work on the budget and your presentations, which have unbelievable clarity. So I really appreciate your work, Connie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the chocolate.
And what?
The chocolate.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a chocolates person, but I do appreciate the offer.
If my own budget
If you have
was
any,
this clear.
I'll take them and bring them.
So
to
just
you.
wait, just so this board knows, you used to only get chocolate at the very end of the budget, and she'd tuck it in the back page. She had to show that you had actually gone through the book. Now she's wised up, and she said, I gotta bribe them at every meeting with chocolate. Thanks,
Yeah,
Connie.
and lots of other snacks you brought this year, too.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, looking forward to December 4th. Thanks, Connie. Liz and Ann and, oh, Rich and Kara, you're all leaving now? Like, oh, you just came.
Before we can
Come
stop
down
them.
and you steal
I'm going to
cookies
play in
and
the
you
snow.
leave. I know.
Yeah, please do.
Everybody takes a cookie.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so, all right, where are we?
As they're
What are we
stealing
doing?
cookies on their way out the door.
We gotta get back
Future
to future
agendas
agendas.
and open
Sorry.
Future
discussion.
agendas, there we go.
John has solved our retreat dates,
Plenty of time to
right?
go
And our
back in.
Washington dates.
It's all been figured
Well,
out.
we're working on it. We have not solved it yet. Also, we've been looking for a time with Eagle County. They have identified being able to get together January 28th.
So far away.
Or February 4th, 1 p.m. or later. And they're willing to come here or Basalt or Elgeville.
Wow.
We used to do
make it into
ski
a
day
ski
with
day?
them. They're not doing a ski day
Oh,
this year?
we'll be
They'll do that
doing
in the
that too,
spring.
but not all of you do the ski day, so
Probably
we
in
wanted
March.
to get together and just be able to
Yeah,
talk.
especially
board to
since
board.
they have a new commissioner, and so do we. So what dates again? The something?
Right
20?
now, it's looking like
February, you said?
January 28th or
Is that
February
X
4th.
Games?
January 28th is a Tuesday.
Yep.
So it would be like a breakfast
I'll be
meeting?
here or wherever you
It'd
tell
be
me to
1
go.
p.m. or later, so we
Sure,
would,
it would
what
be
we'd do
part
is-
of our meeting.
Yeah, we'd make that part of our meeting, and
I
we
see.
could do it either up here, if we wanted to go Mid-Valley, we could do that.
I see.
Can we broadcast Mid-Valley?
Yeah, they have broadcast capability. It's not
At Eagle County Building, not at our building.
Not at our building.
Ours isn't
Having-
big
Is
enough
this like a
anymore.
lunch meeting, or is this just a meeting?
Well, we haven't planned that much of it yet. It'd be after 1, so what I would suggest is we do a little bit of a probably work session if it's a Tuesday, and then head down later in the afternoon.
And then wrap
with
it up
them.
down there? Sounds good.
Or figure it out. We can do the whole meeting.
Okay,
down
but
there.
either of
Whatever
those.
you say.
Either
Okay.
of those dates work.
You
That's
say,
great.
we do.
I think January would be good to start off the year meeting with them. That gives us time to work things through the year. Plan another meeting.
And then I had a note here that they're asking for the joint meeting with Healthy Rivers and Streams, but I thought that was on our agenda already, whether the board would
I
consider
don't think it's
attending one
on the
of their
agenda yet, but I
meetings.
know it's scheduled.
I didn't
Okay.
see it. When I looked at future
The
agendas.
question was whether the board would be willing to attend one of the Healthy Rivers and Streams meetings, which are on the third Thursdays of each month in Basalt. from
Northwest.
I
4
told
to
Lisa and
6.
Lisa last week that I would be happy to do that.
Do you
But
guys
if
have
somebody else
Bethesda?
wants to do it, that would be fine too.
See, third
They're in the evening
Thursdays.
usually.
Oh, we all need to do a joint meeting, so we all have
Thursday,
to-
what times are they again?
They're Thursdays, they're the third Thursday of each month in Basalt from 4 to 6. And we're looking at January or February for that.
That would conflict with me with,
I thought
actually,
she
no, it
already
wouldn't
had us
core. I'll be
on
off
here.
core by then.
I'm happy to do it.
So,
We can choose. Okay, I think the question is, are you happy to do that, meet at one of their meetings in Basalt 4 to 6? on
if that's
Thursday?
what they want us to do.
Why don't we make them
for
come
them,
here?
that's fine. What? Generally, they come to our meetings, but if they want us to
Yeah.
go to Basalt,
I'd rather have them here and then we'll buy them lunch.
Oh, some of
let's
them are
go there.
volunteers and have to work.
Yeah, that was, I think that's probably the bigger issue.
Oh,
is-
there's that.
yeah,
Oh, that.
Open Space and Trails works. I have a
Trails, how about-
question. The holiday party is Saturday the 7th, correct? Just want to make sure the board knows that.
And it will be at Takah.
Takah.
We try and alternate doing a Mid-Valley location, a
6
Valley
o'clock?
location. God, that's
6
a
to
lot of-
9, Charlotte told me.
Well, if that's what Charlotte said, that's when it is.
I have
Yes.
6 to 8 up there, but I
And
might have
I
just made
think-
that
Just
up.
asked her yesterday,
Okay.
and
And
she was like,
Steve-
there's been a lot of reminders. I'm like,
Greg,
oh.
can I ask
There
Steve?
have?
Steve?
Please.
Steve, you're going to be there, correct?
Perhaps.
Yes, I will be there. The Messiah is the following week at Takah also,
Okay.
the following Saturday, so.
You don't have to stay the
I'm-
whole week there. You can go home and come back.
As long as we're not interfering with your rehearsal.
Yeah.
Nope, not on definitely not on a Saturday night.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, open discussion, items for open discussion. Do we have anything else to add to that? Steve does.
A couple of things. Friday is the deadline for registering for CCI. Is anybody else, Francie or Kelly, are either of you going to CCI annual meeting?
I am not,
When is it?
sadly.
Saturday?
December
2nd through 4th,
Oh.
Monday through Wednesday.
No, I'm not going.
Are you going?
Okay, well,
He's
I have
going to new
been
commissioner in
debating.
January.
Right.
You can go.
If I went, I can't, I really can't drive myself there. If I went, I would have to hitch a ride with someone else or, do something different. So I am torn whether to even try to go. It's almost too hard to do it. And then I have trouble seeing when I'm there, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna go yet or not, but I just wanted to ask if anyone else was going. And John, is there any, staff people would be going to CCI?
Yeah,
And is Jeffrey going to go, just to meet commissioners? That's another question.
Well, it would be good to assign Jeffrey a bunch of stuff before he has a vote, I think.
I like this. See where this
I think
works.
there's a new commissioner orientation in January that I think, Jeffrey, you're planning on attending. I don't know that you're planning on attending the winter conference. It is something that I think we could support if you wanted to. Typically, Lindsay and I go. I am gonna have my daughter back from college during that time, so I was debating whether I was gonna go. I think Kara or Lindsay might be going though, Steve, so we could talk about whether there's an opportunity for you to get a ride over there. And I still may be going over. I'd be happy to give you a lift.
So that week is not going to be considered for Washington.
Don't feel guilty or anything.
You don't have, no, just go to the CCI new commissioner.
John, I think,
go later.
I don't think you should go if you've got your
Saying
kid
yes,
here.
it will not be considered.
So it seems weird to.
You can, it won't kill you to miss it, a better time spent with your kid.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you. Appreciate
It's,
it.
yeah.
And then,
I don't know where it
Greg, I
is.
have one
Yeah,
other.
go ahead, Steve.
Westminster.
Somewhere in the front range, yeah.
One other item, and this is more
Westminster.
directed for Francie. I had a call today from Ray Beck, who is the Club 20 membership person from Craig, former county commissioner.
Yeah, I got a
and he-
voicemail from him saying he had talked to you, and I couldn't quite understand the whole voicemail, so I'm happy to hear from you what he said.
So he was just like thanking us for Picken County representatives for participating in Club 20. He thanked me for becoming an individual membership for the coming years, and he wished us happy Thanksgiving. So I just wanted to say that in person. He was calling everybody, all of the the people who've been chosen to be on the board at Club 20.
I'm assuming you didn't mention to him the fact that we did not see the petition before it went out on Wolves?
We didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Steve. And I just want to note that tomorrow I'll be recusing on item 16 and 17 yet again, ALP
16
and FBO, just for tomorrow. So Steve's going to be,
ALP?
The ALP,
I was going to,
you can be on the ALP, can't you?
Yeah, I thought you could be on the ALP.
You could be on the ALP.
You've been in all the other ALP
You
discussions.
should be on the ALP.
And first reading.
Uh-oh.
He just wasn't on the
Why is he recusing from the ALP?
FBO lease.
I mean, if he's
The
comfortable doing that,
FBO
I just
lease,
would like to know why.
Definitely not.
I'll definitely be recused on the lease. I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
wrapping
You've
them
been
together. I was
to
just
all
going
the
to hand it over
I
to
think
Steve.
the consideration around the ALP is, it's much further arm's length than the lease. The consideration around the ALP would be the lack of a full-length taxiway precludes potentially a second FBO.
But I don't think he's recused from any, I want to
Yeah,
be
I can't-
he
Yeah,
it's not
He
up to me.
hasn't been recused in any of the prior.
of the ALP.
But we haven't
yeah.
gone there yet too much either. So if we think that's coming back,
We-
maybe I will.
We did the first reading. I do believe you voted on that,
Yeah.
Greg. So it's
On the
really a
taxiway?
call that you would
Yeah.
have to make. That
That's a
would be
reminder.
I'm so sorry, Greg.
that would be
And
the
the one in
connect.
May.
I was
and-
just highlighting what the connection would be. I do think it's arm's length and largely at the discretion of the member.
But if you voted on it once, you can't recuse the second time around. Well, I guess you could.
Yes, you can. Why not?
I'm going to recuse myself. Greg and I
After
are
all
gonna
the
go-
work has been.
After it's all done.
You know, you've come so
Frank, if it
far.
makes you feel any better, I think there probably will be far less public hearing on the ALP because that was decided in the public vote, by and large. But on the lease, FBO lease, I think there will be a huge amount of public comment that I will be the one cheering for that. So you can
Okay,
hear
great.
off the hook for that.
Well, since they're in the order they're in, I can certainly stick around for ALP and then hand it to you at the right moment.
Electric.
Okay, that's all I had.
What are we going to do? We got,
Well, we were going to take a break at 3:30.
I did text Rye to let him know. I haven't heard back yet, so he may be trying to get folks.
he was
back.
just walking the dog.
Well, we've got plenty of time for them. We've carved out an hour and a half. Good job, everyone.
Well, it
Did
might
we
be good
review
for the
future
board to take a
agendas?
break, and
did.
we'll see if we can get him here. a little
The,
bit.
oth- well, the other thing is, Rye had other things
There's
on
something missing?
exec session that doesn't have anything to do with these attorneys. So he could come in and we could kick one of those or two of those out, couldn't we?
If he's available.
I'm just trying to use his time and our time efficiently.
I'm going to take
Were you here
advantage of
for
the next
anything?
5 minutes or so for a break.
Let-
Can we want to take a
10.
10-minute break, Grassroots? Thank you.
We have to come back to go into exec again, and then you'll be done.
Well,
Should we just go into exec so she can go?
Oh, we
Andorra
could
can
do
go?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to
Well,
reconvene.
hold on. Are we
Hold
still
on.
live, Andorra?
I'm going to make a motion to reconvene executive session as per agenda items from this morning.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, great. Thanks,
Aye.
Grassroots. See you next time.